Welcome back, Tigers. This is part 4 of our Salesforce campaigns and emails series. In this video, we will show you how to create a flow that will send emails to campaign members at a specific time. If you missed part 1 and 2 of this video series, you can find the links to those videos in the description below. You will need to complete the steps in those videos before you'll be able to send a scheduled flow in this one. Let's go check out how to add the ability to schedule our emails for our upcoming webinars. All right, here we are in Salesforce, and we have a couple of steps that we need to do before we update our flow. Now we're going to add a new type to our campaign object. We're going to call this type Scheduled Outbound Salesforce Email. The reason why we're adding another type is so that we are sure when we are configuring our flow which automations are going to fire on which records. So this will make sure we know exactly what is going to be happening. The next step we need to do is go to Campaign Member Status Walloper and add this additional type, so all of our statuses are also created for this type of campaign. And we'll just add the type right here. Our next step is to create a new field. So our use case is that we're going to send an email 30 days prior to our webinar start date. So we're going to put a date time field on our campaign record that we're going to use to calculate 30 days prior to this date. We're just going to put it on our email page layout. And then we're going to go to our object manager. We're going to go to the campaign member object, and we're going to create another field here. This is going to be a formula. This is going to be a date time field. And this is just going to bring over the webinar start time field that we just created. And you'll see why we're creating this. It's going to be used as a helper field in our flow. Okay, now we're going to go to our flow that we created in part 1 or part 2. It doesn't matter which one that you created. We're going to go to our campaign member, created, updated after save flow. All right, and we're going to add a scheduled path here. We're going to call this 30 days before webinar start date time. And we're going to select our date time source, which is our campaign member webinar start date time. So this is why we needed to create that formula field. Now we want this to trigger the email to go out 30 days before that webinar start date time. So now we're going to just copy this and paste it over here. And we're going to update some criteria here. And then we're not going to look for the record is new and the status to change. And we want all of this logic to be met. So then if this criteria is true, then we want it to go over here to the has opted out process. And so then your flow should look just like this. And let me make sure I updated the type in here. Nope, I did not. So let's go ahead and update that type too, because we only want this to happen if the type equals scheduled outbound Salesforce email. Now we'll save this as a new version. We'll activate. And now we're ready to test this out. So we're going to come over here and we're going to create a new campaign. We're going to do a product update webinar. We'll check the active checkbox, scheduled outbound Salesforce email. And now we need to update our template IDs and our webinar start date time. We're going to open up a new tab and we're going to get the email template ID. So here's our email template. There's the ID. We'll copy this. And then our webinar date is the 18th at 9:30. Now we're going to go find a contact. And we're going to add Allison to our webinar campaign. Now we're going to look in time-based workflow. So you'll go into setup and then we'll go to time-based. You'll click search. And then if the record triggered the process, it's going to show here. Now, if you have a ton of records here because you have a lot of automations, you may need to use this filter criteria so that you can see exactly which records you want to look at. So we don't see a record in here, but if we come over here and we click refresh, we can see that the email did go out. So the process was so fast that we didn't even get to see a record in the time-based workflow. So we can see that our exclusive webinar email did indeed go out. Now, let's go ahead and change this date and time so that we can see a record showing in there. So let's push it out one more day. Okay, so now we would expect this email to be triggered tomorrow at 9:30. So let's save that. Then let's remove Allison and then add her back again. Okay, then we'll go back to time-based workflow. We'll click search. And now we can see the record is triggered. So we can see that this is scheduled to go out for tomorrow. So that's exactly what we would expect to happen. That's illustrating a key point here that if your webinar date time is less than 30 days away and somebody is added to this campaign, the email is going to get triggered. So even if they're added 5 days before or 10 days before, the email is going to go out. If you don't want that to happen and you only want it to go out if the person existed in the campaign 30 days prior, you're going to need to add another criteria to your automation to prevent it from doing that, or you can just uncheck the active checkbox on the campaign and that will turn off this criteria. So if you uncheck the active checkbox and it's now false, it's not going to come down here and actually send that email out. You can also create another field if you wanted to, a kill switch, so to speak, if you wanted to leave the active checkbox checked since the webinar hasn't happened yet. You can create a checkbox that says send email, and then you can add that checkbox as a criteria here, and then the email will only go out if that checkbox is checked. All right, that's it. That's how you set up a scheduled path on your record triggered flow to control when an email is going to go out to your campaign members. That's it. That's a wrap. Be sure to subscribe to Blue Tiger Academy so you don't miss out on the next video in the Salesforce Campaigns and Email series. We will show you how to configure a solution that will handle larger data volumes using Apex. You will learn how to configure the Apex class and use it as an invocable action in your flow. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you'd like to see a video on a different Salesforce topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.